Good morning, Viewpoint, the program of personalities, politicians, and perspectives. And one of these days, we'll bring a politician in here. But in the meantime, we want to keep this thing honest, so we'll just defer that till a later time. I have a lot of comments about politicians, but in the interest of keeping my morning job here, I'll defer it until I clear them through station management.
But you and I aren't the only people in captivity who have become a little bit cynical.
I'd say,
or maybe more than a little bit.
A preponderant. I don't know what the polls say, but I'd say that if you ask the average Joe or Josephine on the street, that 8 out of 10 you'd get a negative answer.
Yeah, it's a shame.
What do you think? All right. Oh, I should introduce my guest here, Mrs. Busby.
Thank you for inviting me.
I will defer the kudos until we have introduced our. Unless you have anything, do you have anything cogent to offer this morning?
Not so much, no.
Oh, well, what's usual about that? Why don't you introduce our guest this morning, and let's get right down to business, because we have an interesting topic this morning.
Well, and a busy one as well.
Yes.
David Lanterman is with us today, and I'm sure that his name is very familiar to most people. And he's got lots of projects going, and we're going to talk about some of these that are right up close and personal. We had people from the Oasis a little bit ago, David, and of course they had to move, and you thankfully picked up that building. Thank you for being entrepreneur exceptional. The town appreciates you.
Yes, I want to re-emphasize that. There's a lot of good things going on downtown, and David's intimately involved with many of them.
You bet.
And so that's why we asked David to be our guest this morning, is to have him expand on some of the ideas that he's working with, to the extent that he wants to share it with us and the public. So let's go right into the First National Bank building, David, for openers.
It seems like it's been a long time, but actually I think it's only been just a year now. And we actually took possession of the building in the late fall, when we finally got everything done. And it's very difficult to tell, but we've actually put a temporary roof inside the building. So when you see those windows that are all open on the second floor, the roof is right below the windows. So that actually keeps all the rain out. So we've stabilized the building. The overall plans, though, are still kind of coming. I don't really have a specific thing that I could announce. Most of the reason is we have, in case you've heard, we have this large theater expansion project that's coming. So that since that actually got going, I was kind of thinking maybe that might get delayed for a while. So we might work on the Oasis, but that took off. So we're going to probably get that one done first, and then probably concentrate on the Oasis building after that. That'll be our next bigger project.
Well, you're just kind of like a homeowner only on a vast scale. You have to prioritize and decide, I guess I'll do this first, and when I get that taken care of, I'll address the next thing.
Right. I've got a lot of different projects that move, I push them each forward a little bit at a time, just to kind of keep things in, to get ready, so we can always keep something active. Recently we just opened up By the Bean, the new coffee bar. So that was actually a project. I thought, I can't get this theater thing going right now. So we did that. Took 6 months and put that together, just so that we had still some activity downtown.
Before we get to By the Bean, excuse me, Judith, go ahead, please.
Well, that's taking off. That's
yes.
I'm sure that there's a little bit of fear and trepidation, always thinking, now this is a really good idea. I like this. I'm going to do this. And then you think, I hope those other guys like it too.
Well, you never know what's going to happen until you open the door. I mean, you think you have a feeling that's what's going to go on, but really when you open the door is kind of your first taste of, is this everything you put into it going to actually work?
Right.
When your customers open the door to buy the bean, you take about a half a step inside, and you just kind of stop. So, and it's, as I call it, the wow factor. Wow, this is really something. That's big city stuff that you see here in Lincoln, Illinois.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted it to be something that would feel, definitely a little bit more city-oriented, but not too extreme.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't, like, too contrasting. As we put it right next to Beans and Such, and that's by the Bean, I wasn't, people, before we'd open the doors, they would say, is it going to look just like Beans and Such? I said, well, no, it's not. We want to have contrast and variety in here. So I think we did surprise people a little bit with our door theme.
Yeah.
I didn't purchase a new door for the entire building. Everything's been repurposed. The cabinet fronts on the wall, if you haven't had a chance to go in, it's really kind of a cool feel and a nice place to meet. But what I found the most interesting thing about By the Bean is our customers, as they come in, we're not training customers to what coffee is. They've already experienced that in their lives because of Starbucks and being out there. So they've already been and experienced that. So they're coming in, they already know what they want, which is kind of, we're not training. If you would walk in and say, well, hey, Bill, coffee is made out of coffee beans through a coffee filter, and I hope you might try a cup. You're going to come in, you probably already know what you want to order. You've just been waiting for the coffee bar to open. So that's kind of been, that's been helpful to us, so that we're actually just offering a product to people that already wanted one.
I noted your Wi-Fi bar was busy the day I popped in there.
Yeah.
And I suspect that's a daily activity there.
Yes, we get right away. I found people sitting at the tables having a little meeting. They'd get together. Maybe an attorney meeting with somebody, an insurance agent talking to somebody. All sorts of just little meetings going on in there, which is exactly what we wanted, which we didn't have.
No, there wasn't.
Not for downtown at all.
Not. And there are pretty good crumpets to go with your tea as well.
Yes.
Now, going back long ago and about a block and a half away, you and your sister had a bakery. Now, are you doing the baking of these things?
No, actually.
By the way, that was outstanding products too.
And I have to say, I still get great comments on that. And we opened that in 1989, and we're open for 5 years.
Really? Was it
So
really?
it's been closed since '94.
Well, it was
20 years ago. I know. That's what's hard to believe. It's hard to believe I've been here doing this that long.
Yeah, really. But that was such a handsome building.
Yes, well done.
And you had pretty handsome things in there as well.
Well, we're very lucky that Susan Shaw, she's Central Illinois Catering, and her bakery is called Sweet Betty Jane's, and she's from Elkhart. She lives in Elkhart, used to bake out of her home, but she actually operates a facility now in Riverton. So she does all of our baking for us. She has a great product.
And does a good job,
Oh,
yes.
yeah. We've had great comments on all of the bakery items.
Well, congratulations on that success.
Is there one popular item that's kind of made itself known so far since you've opened up By the Bean?
On the bakery side, I think our cinnamon crumble scones have been very popular. I love the brownies. I like a good brownie, and I think the brownies are amazing. So.
Yeah, but the atmosphere when you walk in, as I alluded to just a few minutes ago, that's big city stuff. When you walk in, you can find that on North Michigan Avenue. And,
well, I think Lincoln needed a little, just a little lift up right there. It's not,
man.
It was kind of funny when we did the project. I was. When I put the orange and the green on the walls, and the contractors kept looking at me and saying, "Oh," they did not buy it. I was fighting them the whole time. They said, "Oh, they're rolling that orange on the wall." They're like, "This is the worst orange I've ever seen." And I'm like, "Trust me, when you get it done, and we get the lighting in and get it all trimmed." And the response though from the customers as they walked in, they really liked it. It's just a nice, inviting feel. And
let me ask you a personal question. Is
On
it
the air?
you, right in front of God and everybody?
Okay. I just want to make sure it's all right.
Are you the one who has the good decorating ideas?
Yeah, I did all the
Or do you do you meet with people?
No, I did the interiors. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, bless your heart.
Innate ability he has. It is. I mean, it's amazing.
That's the fun part. I love the design.
It's a gift.
Yeah, I
It's a
really
real
enjoy
gift.
that part of it.
Well, good for you.
Tell me about the
You do
ideas
nice
on
work.
the doors.
Thank you.
The doors on the wall there.
The doors.
That was pretty cute.
I wanted to do something. I had thought about using old doors to make a picture frame. Put 4 doors as a kind of in a square as a frame, and then put artwork that local artists could display in. Well, the wall was monstrous. It's just this one huge wall that runs down the whole place. And I kept thinking, and the more I had all these doors, and the more I looked at the doors, I just thought, well, they're the artwork. themselves. So we took these 15 doors, went out into the alley, laid them out on the ground, and moved them, stacked them, and then took pictures, numbered them, and got it all in place, and then had to just throw it up on the wall. So it was quite a project, yeah.
Okay, now you see, Judith, there's the artist.
Right, exactly, yeah.
That's the artist. Yeah.
Did anyone see you in the alley with your pile of doors and think, oh, poor David, he's gone south on us?
A few people walked through and they said, what are you doing? Yeah, I got a couple of comments like that.
I'm sure
and then they looked at it and they said, oh, well, they kind of got it, but, people want to see it all finished. It's kind of like when you're, stirring the batter, they don't trust that it's going to be a cake. It's like, believe me, it will be a cake.
Well, you do nice work.
Thank you very
dare
much.
say.
Judy, if I may, I'd like to go back to the Oasis building, the First National Bank building that I remembered as, of course, and before that was the German American Bank. Anyway.
Well, you're too young, Jim.
That block.
Yes.
Is due up for rehabbing.
Yes.
And I think properly they put that off until after the Balloon Fest, because I'm sure it would not have been done. It had been a mecca.
No, I mean, we really, I've been involved in that downtown committee. We really did want to have it done so that, as we have so many people downtown, to have it done for the festival. But it got to the point where we thought, if it isn't just perfect, every day lined up perfect, we could have a problem. So we did put it off.
Yeah.
But that block, there were along the arcade and down towards the Oasis, we'll have all new streetscape in it, and then actually the streetscape does turn the corner on the theater side and come down towards the theater.
Oh, good.
So it's not actually going to come down along the Oasis right now. That's going to be done later.
I see. Yeah.
Do you have any idea in your head of if I could do anything I wanted with that building, I'd turn it into a fill in the blank?
Oh, I definitely think we have room for a restaurant downtown, and but after that, I think I've got some other ideas that we'll just have to wait and see. People ask me all the time. Believe me, I get questioned every day on it.
Oh, I'm sure.
And my pat response is, it will be something grand.
It would.
Okay.
So it is a grand building. That was the whole point of saving it. That facade is amazing. It would be like knocking your front tooth out if we had taken that been torn down on that corner. And,
that'd been a travesty.
So it's not going to be easy, but it's stabilized. And right now, until we get everything organized to do it the right way, I don't want to just do it half.
Right.
We will do it the correct way, but it's going to be something.
Are you thinking it'll still be a 2-story building?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Architecturally, to save that on that corner is an architectural gem, really.
It is.
I think you have to be a little bit older to appreciate some of those things. As a matter of fact, I got a lot older before I started appreciating a lot of things. But anyway, that saving that is a real plus for downtown Lincoln.
Well, the facade that's on it isn't the original facade. The one that's on it is an addition when it was about, I think, in the before 1914. It's
really?
But after 1900, right?
Mm-hmm. Are you
it actually had more.
Back
No, it's going
to it?
I just meant that facade. It's the original footprint of the building, but not the original facade.
Right.
They often did those kind of things. The one that's there, obviously, is the one we would keep.
Okay.
But I've seen some postcards that show what it looked like even before that.
You have to be a researcher, an archaeologist.
Yeah, that's the interesting part. You can go back and find some interesting things and how things changed over time. It wasn't all just static. It wasn't built this way and stayed that way. Many things changed over 120 years that those buildings were there. So that building's actually from the 1870s, but that bank was remodeled around 1900.
Think of that.
Well, you're just going to be a wealth of information on what the building used to look like, any building downtown, aren't you?
Yeah, there's some interesting documents that show they used to have them for insurance purposes, and they have all these maps, and they go back and this company would make these maps, and they would sell them to an insurance agent, and so an insurance agent would know what was being happened in every building, and so they would know how to quote them. This goes back into the 1870s. They would update these maps every 10 years. So you can look at these maps today. They're called Sanborn maps, and you can see how your town developed and what changed. It's just a pencil drawing, but you can actually see how it changed, and you can still get these today, and they happened up until the 1960s. this
just
company.
Evolution before your very eyes.
Yeah, it's amazing. When things were added, dropped, there's a lot of buildings that have come down, new ones have come up.
Sure.
Yeah, it's very interesting stuff.
648-5510. Somebody might have a question or comment for David Lanterman. Local boy, although he has Elkhart roots, but he's assimilated into the community here in Lincoln very, very solidly, and we're proud to have him and tickled to death and appreciate all of his interest in what's going on in downtown Lincoln. He has a lot of unusual and bright ideas, so we're happy to have him as our guest today, and we appreciate you give us some time. The block there that they're going to work on to rehab on the south side of the square, David, that will be a foretaste of what they plan and the long-range plan around the block, around the courthouse square.
Yeah, the overall project is about a 12-block set, four blocks over towards the railroad and 3 blocks wide, so it's about 12 full blocks. But this is what we've called the demonstration block, so it will be so people understand what it's going to look like where we're going. And once you do those kind of things, it's much more advantageous when you would perhaps apply to the state for a grant. You have something done and you're extending it. The state is difficult to get grants anyway, but they don't like to start you off. They want to see, a project's already going, and they just want to extend something. So that's one of our main goals, to get that in place.
Okay.
We have a big project here at WLCN. It's called Recognizing Commercial Sponsors. So at this point in time, if Mr. Ash is ready to flip the buttons, we'll move to commercials. And right back live in the studios of WLCN. The program this morning, Viewpoint, which we happen to have every morning, every Wednesday morning, that is, with my co-host and sidekick, Judith K. Busby. And we have as our guest this morning Mr. David Lanterman, who's, as I alluded to a few minutes ago, Elkhart roots, but Lincoln College, Lincoln City guy. So that was almost a Freudian slip there. I said Lincoln College. That's all right.
It's
I'll put a poke in for Lincoln College.
Also a little bit of Broadwell.
Yeah.
My mother's from Broadwell.
Oh, well, that's part of the 3 Beesons.
Yeah.
Burtonville, Broadwell, and Beeson.
Yeah, a lot of good people came out of Broadwell, Beeson.
Yeah, kidding about that. Well, David, I saw some time ago an architect's rendering on the expansion for the theater program. Outstanding. It just absolutely carried you away to look at that. And unfortunately, I don't think Old Bill's going to be around to see that come to fruition. But unless you do it, soon. Anyway, let's just generally talk about, to the extent that you wish to talk about that plan, David. I think it's exciting for Lincoln.
Thank you. The project, it's been probably 4 years as I've put it together. Mostly, a lot of people have always said, why don't we put a parking lot down there, all that vacant property?
Yeah.
Which, at the time, I really couldn't say, well, no, I'm going to put something there. But so as you see the rendering, my goal was, if we're going to add buildings to downtown, they need to be in the character of a downtown. Lincoln's prime is really from the 1890s to about 1920. That's when most everything was built in downtown Lincoln. That
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's kind of its big heyday. So we sort of used that theater period in the 20s when they were building all the grand palaces as the kind of our inspiration. So that's great from the internet. I went to an online site that had 30,000 pictures of different theater buildings.
Oh my God.
So it was great to just, page through it all, pulled out a lot of things that I thought were inspiring to me, and to have something that would be interesting enough, not too extreme, but, have enough detail for it, what the town of Lincoln would have been, what it would have supported, not something, too out of character, but usually something that the town would be proud of. That's the idea. So we used that as our inspiration, and the rest of the side, which is as opposed to just having a solid brick wall, it looks like those were old businesses that could have been along there. So it should fit into the character of the block and the character of downtown. It also ties in to the old Sandals gas station, which is down at the corner.
Right.
So we will save that entire facade, and that actual building itself is not going to be part of the theater. So there's not an auditorium behind that. It's actually a shell that we could potentially use for another venue, perhaps a restaurant or something like that.
Radio studio or something like that.
Or I've had somebody say a radio studio would be great because of the window. I've heard that before. But anyway, if you actually see the rendering, you'll see where there is seating outside. So that's kind of the idea, that we might be able to do that. Now, that's not in this first phase when we build the theater. That would be a next phase for us.
I just am totally amazed at the things that you're doing for downtown and for the people. It just doesn't, I thought that ship had sailed when people thought of somebody else and tried to do good things for a whole group of people. I really thought that ship had sailed. I appreciate that,
but I've gotten great comments back from the community, being very supportive, so that is very rewarding too. I do it because I love it, but also, when people do also appreciate the effort, that's wonderful. So, the new theater has two purposes in my mind. It is to the current theater, actually, we need more screens to be able to be viable in the future as we go forward. The current theater is doing very well. It's, I was here maybe a couple of years ago when we discussed that project.
Right.
But our attendance has greatly improved. However, as we go forward, the industry is changing quite a bit. And the speed of the movies turns over very quickly. So a movie is old after 3 weeks now, where it used to be you'd get a single show that when the theater was a single screen and it could play for 2 or 3 months. Well, that never happens anymore.
Yeah.
If you don't play it when it's released, by the time we could play it later, it's old news, and it's no good. So if I'm not playing it on the day that it's released, they have the potential to drive to Bloomington or Springfield and see it. So I'm losing that business.
The gas.
Yeah. Well, some of them do.
Yeah,
those serious movies. So I really didn't want to lose those. So that was one reason for the expansion, was to keep it for the local people. So we'll be able to offer all the movies and keep a theater here.
I don't know where I got this idea. Maybe I made it up, but I thought that you had to be in a big city to get a movie as soon as it's released and show it, but you do it.
Well, we're lucky because they're seeing us as our attendance is on the rise. We're doing the right thing. We're bringing more people in, so they're finally kind of paying a small amount of attention to us, but we still are just a little player, a little fish in the big pond. So I have to work. And we have a film buyer that works very hard to make sure that we get the current releases. As we have a bigger facility and we have more attendance, it gives us more ability to do that, because what needs to happen here is we will need to double our attendance, which we can do that, with this new facility.
And may I ask, I think I understood that in your grand plan you'll have a larger theater as opposed to the little studios that you have in the Lincoln Theater, current Lincoln Theater building. Is there going to be one larger venue?
We have a variety. There are 6 new screens that are built, and they will vary in sizes. The largest one is about 190 seats, which is a fairly decent size. It's it's not a Peoria or Springfield very large size
Orpheum Theater
type of thing. It's the number of screens you turn people through, so that's a decent size. It's really the volume that we needed, the numbers of them, not so many people at one time, And then we will. This actually ties into the current Lincoln Theater 4, and we'll use those 2 screens that are in the very front that have the newer seats in them. So we'll have 2 there and 6 new ones. So you'll have 8 altogether.
This may expose my ignorance, because I'm not certain. Has America been advertised yet? Are we going to get the movie America in?
It actually has not done very well, and it's a bad time because we have very few screens. This is summertime. I have to play the blockbusters, So what happens is, because we have limited screens, I can't fit that in.
Is that interesting?
Yeah, so if we had 8 screens, I could put that on a small screen. It's never going to be as well attended as a Transformers or, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes now. So,
well,
see what I'm saying? I can't. yeah, it's all about the economics right now. So
Sure.
once we get more screens, we would be able to offer a wider variety of some films that'll never be a blockbuster that people want to see. I do have people ask me about it that would like to see it. I'll play whatever people want to see. You know, some people think that it's not played because I don't want to play it. You know,
Well,
no, you know what I mean. I get that. You know, they say, "Oh, you don't want that." I was, "Oh, no. I have to decide where the money is."
Oh,
you know,
obviously.
so that's how that's working right now, and that's what'll be nice is when we have more screens, we can do more things.
I think David just spoke to the dumbing down of America. He says the people would rather see the Planet of the Apes rather than America. That's a commentary, if I've ever heard one. But that's interesting to know that your film buyer, you have somebody who's in charge of
Yes.
booking these. And they're busy all the time. They're watching what's going on.
They're our relationship to the studios. So
Now,
they have that big relationship, and they're the ones that because of their experience, they know what would play best in Lincoln, and they have to convince the studio about the characteristics of our town and what should be played here to get the most money out of the screens. Because basically, they're renting a screen. You know, we're selling screens.
Yes.
We say, well, we want what's on the screen to get the most ticket sales. That's
Right.
our goal.
Right. It's an amazing thing. Now, is this man or woman like an agent type person who works for you and the Bijou and
Yes. He's
someplace
actually
else?
out of Philadelphia, so he does it, I think, about 20 or 30 theaters across the country. That's a
so
job
he
has.
really has his finger
He's
on the pulse
a
of it.
broker, so to speak.
Basically a broker.
And you indicated to me, just kind of surprising to me, I believe that you indicated that America's not doing generally as well as I thought it might be.
It's not. It's only playing on 1,000 theaters across the country. So typically, a wide release is going to play at almost 4,000 theaters across the country.
Oh, so that is down.
So it's pretty. It's just that they'll pick specific places that they know it's going to make money. So the studio is the one that's deciding where that's going to play, not me.
I see.
You know, so they wouldn't even consider sending it here today
yeah.
because they don't. They just don't.
Okay.
It's kind of complicated. They're going to decide where they want to pay to have it on the screen.
That's interesting. I saw where there's number one in the book sales, and Hillary was number 100, which tickled me to death. But anyway, we do that once in a while in this show. We make an opinion. Maybe it's not universally
Editorial
accepted.
comment. You understand.
Oh, sure.
Not everybody's opinion. But it is interesting to note that generally, nationwide, that hasn't had the appeal that...
plenty of people have seen it, but it's not
Sure.
a blockbuster. It's just an odd time for it to come out midsummer amongst all the other, which stuff that's probably not quite as esoteric or, working your mind as much. The fun stuff in the summer, it's an odd time for them to release it. Often that stuff comes in the fall when you get a little bit more classier films or, something that's going to appeal to an intellect that you're going to have to sit there and think about,
Well, in the
summer is
summer-
about fun. That's what that's
Yeah,
Well,
right.
that's an
And you've got to
interesting observation.
compete
Yeah.
with the weather and the
Oh, sure.
outdoors and all the things.
Yeah,
Sure.
family, kids, and people out of school and work. So it's really about real entertainment. So
You've done a great job of booking. I mean, you have a cross-section, a real potpourri of films to offer. Is the film Unbroken, has that been released yet?
I'm not sure that it has.
That's Lou Zamperini, the guy who was Olympic track star and was shot down in a B-24 over the Pacific and drifted along in a raft far more than Eddie Rickenbacker did, and they finally got saved. And who saved him? The Japanese. And he spent the rest of his time in Japanese war camps and subjected to some pretty inhumane. And anyway, he just died here a couple of days ago, a week ago, 94. The film was Unbroken, and it's a great book. It was a great read. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I bet. I got to ask you something, and, my dad always said, don't let people think you're stupid, Jude. Open your mouth and prove it, okay? So here I go. Okay, millennials move back into downtowns. Help me, David.
Sure. there's a lot of trends where, it used to be the outward trend from the city to move out into the suburbs. That's definitely going to be a baby boomer type of trend. After World War II, all the suburbs expanded and everybody was moving out. One of the latest trends, though, is moving back into the inner city, and that's from the younger people wanting to be in a place where they have all their amenities walkable almost in that sense, or within some, in a larger city, you're going to have by a public transportation method. Well, we're not going to have public transportation in downtown Lincoln.
Well, no.
But we could have people that, especially what they call the millennials, that younger generation, that they like to live up above the buildings, be able to walk down from their flat and walk out to a coffee bar, buy the bean, or walk down to the theater, or do whatever they want to do. So that is actually kind of a national trend that's going on. Is it happening explicitly in Lincoln? A little bit. I get people asking all the time, do you have a place that I could live downtown?
Really?
So it's it has potential. It's not easy to do. We have a lot of buildings downtown. We have a lot of buildings that have been neglected for 50 years. And they're not easy to turn around. So it's not, it's a very expensive project.
With the two sisters, one sister
One
there.
sister's ready. One sister's at the prom. She's got her dress on. The other one is, I think she's Cinderella in rags still.
For the benefit of those who don't know about what we're speaking, is the building down there by the IGA, across from the funeral home there, that's set in disrepair for eons, and David has rehabbed one, and it's really remarkable. A wonderful transformation. And happily, he has that occupied now.
Yes, yeah.
And he's working on the other sister.
The other sister's got a new hat. She has a new hat on, at least. So there's no more rain coming in, and she's kind of stabilized right now.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure when we'll get back to the project, but it will be done. That's kind of, again, sometimes I feel like I've got a couple too many plates in the air where you do the guy that's sitting there spinning the plates on the stick.
Yes. I should think.
I wonder how you sleep, because you have a remarkable mind. And is there a shutdown time?
I usually just pass out. That's what happens. I did last night. I was
because the gears are always enmeshed up there.
Yeah, I start early in the morning, so usually, I'm up, 5:30 or whatever. But last night it was 11:30 at night, and I was sitting there doing my work on my laptop at home, and the dog's down there sleeping and saying, "Hey, is it bedtime yet?" Well, my head falls forward, and it's the laptop. But that's fine. I mean, I enjoy it all, so it's
so
even though
is that the sign that you get then that it's time to go to bed?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That
when your head's in your
when
laptop?
I just can't stay awake anymore. So.
Oh dear.
So you're long run, you're thinking that there's a feasibility to think in terms of second floor housing in the downtown area.
Yep, I do think it has a lot of potential. I think downtown has really what you're going to see happen, what I'd like to see happen, is to bring people from out of town to visit us. So some of the amenities that I think we need to add for locals will also be visited by out-of-towners. And not just what I call bucket list out-of-towners. I went to Lincoln once and I'll never have to go back. That's people that are going by the interstate. That's bucket list kind of things. I went there, I've seen it, I'll never go back.
Yeah.
So what we want to get is repeat customers that are perhaps from Springfield, Decatur, Bloomington, Peoria, where I call the Four Corners, and use Lincoln as a place to get away, because it's far enough that they feel it's a destination. It's I got out of town for the day, and maybe they can get out of town for the weekend sometime down the road. Perhaps that could happen.
It is happening to a greater degree, I think, than it was, because, for instance, uptown at the Pink Shutter, people come in, and as you're talking with them, they mention, well, I'm not from here. I'm from Decatur, but we come here every month to just shop around. And I'm always so happy to hear that from people.
And what's good about Lincoln's location is we don't have to depend on any one of those four towns. We can take a slice of people from all four of those four corners. And that's kind of the idea with the theater. The theater, like I said, it has two goals. One is to survive as a theater for the local population, but also as a destination. If the two of you were from Springfield and you wanted to bring Bill to Lincoln, I would feel you would say, Bill, I want you to see this theater.
Yeah.
Now, we'll see a movie while we're there, but there's a big difference about that. You didn't say, Bill, I want you to see this movie in Lincoln.
Right.
You said, I want you to see this theater.
Yeah.
So if the theater itself becomes a destination, the theater building, and that becomes a destination for people to come, but they'll also see a movie. That's the secondary part. And then we've done, you've got Bill up here, we've hooked him, and you say, I love that place. We're still going to be very price effective. We're always going to stay, as we are right now, lower price than going out of town. So he'll then say, oh yeah, I go up and I see my movies there. And then he can do the same thing. He'll say, hey, he'll take a friend of his. I think he does have a few friends. I hope.
He's got that one.
One. Okay, well, look at that one friend.
Guy.
Whoever that is. And he'll say, come to Lincoln, I want you to see this theater.
Yeah.
That's the idea of how we get people from out of town. Now, once that goes on, you're going to get people come downtown to eat, to shop, they'll buy gas, and they'll continue to come back. Now, that's my goal. There's other things that we can add to enhance that. So I expect downtown Lincoln to be different than what it is today, but to get better. And those things that are added in downtown will be utilized by local people also. So they're not to the exclusion of the local population. So that's the part where some of these younger generations, they want these amenities that we're kind of missing. They want some things where they can feel that they can hang out and do things. And that's part of what's going on with the new theater. I've had more young people between 20 and 30, first time in my life, that they've said they love that idea. It's the one thing that they've bought into that they feel is going to affect their life in Lincoln. A new theater is. I didn't expect that, but I get it all the time. They're very excited, and they're typically so disengaged into the local politics or the local machinations of downtown.
Yeah.
And they're just like, if they've seen it, they're like, that's great. The other side of that is they've typically been, not all of them, but they're the ones that would drive out of town to go see a movie because they don't have the nostalgia of the Lincoln Theater 4 like you guys do.
Mm-hmm.
Or a loyalty.
Or a loyalty. And there's nothing wrong with them. It's not, I think they're just, often they expect a brand new theater. Mm-hmm. That's what they've experienced, and that's kind of what they want. So they're going to get that with our new theater. They're going to get a new theater that has stadium seating, so we have to bring them back in. So you can't exclude them just because you wish, hey, you should just be loyal. I don't want to do that, but they are really going to they're buying into this process of the new theater, and it's something that they want in their town. So they're very supportive of that. I think we're going to bring another slice back in.
As you rehab, you must face a boondoggle of codes. For instance, buildings didn't, 120 years ago, like you were talking about, there were no firewalls between buildings.
Right.
That's just one example of the myriad of things you must face every day as you think about these things.
It makes it very expensive, and that's one part of the problem, is just to bring these buildings that unfortunately have been so much of downtown has been they've let it slide, and that's just what's happened. I mean, it's hard to turn around, and we don't want to sit there and just start tearing it down. I mean, but that's what's, but if you don't put money back in, it's all going to get torn down in the long run.
Any
so we
homeowner
have to,
knows that.
yeah, you have to put money back into it. I've got quite a bit of, property that I am trying to stabilize so that just doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
Just at least I don't want to lose that. So, I have purchased it. It's just not easy. It's unfortunately, maintenance has been ignored.
Yeah, right.
Well, when the big box stores come into communities like this and move out on the edge of town, whichever direction it is, suddenly it's a big sucking sound, as they say, and the economy follows that big box store, and that's kind of the history. Not just here, but other smaller communities.
Sure. Well, Lincoln, what happened with Lincoln, unfortunately, is, of course, when I was young, downtown.
Vibrant.
It was very vibrant still at that time. And we had J.C. Penney's, Myers Brothers, Montgomery Ward's, Woolworths, Sears. Everything was downtown. So for us, when those moved, they didn't move to the edge of town for us. They left. completely
Period.
left. I mean, at least in Springfield, they moved out of downtown Springfield to a mall.
Yes.
So it's that tax base is still in their community, but it affected their buildings. Well, we lost it all.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And, I'm very nostalgic too, but downtown will never be what it was. But it can be something that's good for our community. So to say it should be what it was, it'll never be that. But it can be something that everybody can participate in and enjoy and have value out of. But it's not going to have 5 department stores downtown Lincoln.
No, the old expression, you can't go home again, and that's true about the economy and the way we are downtown. David, before we close, do you have any comments that you'd like to wrap up with, sir? We appreciate the fact you take a little time out of your really busy schedule to come up here and visit with us.
Sure, it's been great to come up here. Last night I was at the City Council, Lincoln City Council, and they actually voted to approve the TIF financing for the theater project.
Good.
So that was very exciting. It's something that's been it's been a lot of work to get towards, and it's something I don't take lightly. That it is a great responsibility to make sure it all works. When you get that type of support, monetary support, it's got to succeed. So I just wanted to thank the city for being behind that. It is something that the community, I hope, understands that they're buying into. It's a great project. It's something that's, I think, going to turn downtown around. That's the goal, and we're ready to get going on it. Very excited about that.
Well, that gives me another reason to hang on to the ladder rung a little tighter. Maybe that'll happen before I get out of here.
I think so. I mean, I'm hoping that we would perhaps break ground in late August.
Really?
Oh, really?
That would be our goal.
I'm encouraged.
Yeah, and then if everything would go well, we would be in perhaps March to May for an opening. It can go very fast. We've got all that done.
That's all iffy.
Yeah. So it's all dependent on the weather, and there's a lot of issues still. Unfortunately, it's kind of weird that the project being over 10 times bigger than anything I've done before has 100 times more details to do and strings to meet, and it's unbelievable. But it's exciting, but a lot of effort.
Well, we sure appreciate your two things, your foresight and your talent.
Thank you.
We thank you for coming up with us today. I didn't find a general topic to talk about to close this morning, except that I thought David's exhibited an awful lot of common sense as he's worked around our community and enlarging it and enhancing what we have to offer all of our citizens. So I came up with a saying about common sense, that there's only one kind of common sense, but 1,000 variations of stupidity. Thank you for Viewpoint.